Ah, there we go. Oh, too big. Woo, back up. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Um, I think we're ending the pink plate era and we've moved on. And I think you guys did very well considering it was not an easy task, but there were a lot of things to be learned from that. And hopefully you'll store those things in your memory banks and call on them when you need them. Um, let's see. So now this is a little glary. Let me pull that screen down. That's better. Okay. Um, Today, I just want to, as a beginning discussion, I just want to get over some of the other tools that I didn't bring up last week because we went over paper brushes and we went over paint and palettes and other tools today are going to be. There's things you can do with a toothbrush where you do splattering. I think you all know about that. There's a tool called a scrubber, and a lot of people know about it or don't know about it. And it's good for technique, and it's also good for oops, something happened and you want to lighten it or take it down a little bit. And there's the scoring stick, which I'm going to hold up. These are the scoring stick. I mean, it can be as simple as a skewer, that you do for a barbecue or whatever, or it can be like a manicure stick that you use. But these tools, I mean, as simple as they are, really come in handy. And you all know what a toothbrush looks like. Okay, a scrubber, there's many different sizes that you can get. They sometimes come in a 3-pack, and they have a very hard, bristly end to them. And what you do is when your paint is dry, this is the most important thing. The paint must be dry. Then you wet the scrubber. So dry paint, wet scrubber. And you go in there and you lift off your paper and it can lighten or it can make a design, or I'm going to try to show you that a little bit today. So I'll show you what a scrubber does because it's really kind of an invaluable tool. And I've actually used it in creating a special look in a painting. So you never know. And it's good that you experiment with it. Okay. So that's the other tools I wanted to add. And then you all know about kosher salt. I'm going to actually use some of this today in the garden tools. I wanted to show in the garden tools, there's that milk can looking container. Oh, there's a kitty. And it looks like it has a rough texture to it. So I'm going to show you what I've done with that. So kosher salt is another thing. Okay, we're gonna get right to it. So Michelle, can we go to the table, please? Hi, here we are. Okay, all right. In this painting or image, you'll notice there, and the reason I chose this was because I wanted us to experience in this background fabric, I wanted us to experience negative painting. And what that means is you put down this base blue, the base blue color, the lighter of the colors. And then what we do is paint this pattern on top, but you're leaving negative space for the light blue to come through. I'm going to show you how to do that. Also, the leaf painting, there's several different ways you can handle these leaves. And I'm going to show you. Let me just start with the negative painting aspect of this. If in fact you put down, let me make this a little clearer here. Okay, if in fact you put down a blue, like for your background color, I'm using, this is a little bit lighter than it should be. And then what you do, I'm going to show you exactly, if I can find a pencil here. Okay, here we are. If I look at the image and say I'm just going to show you a small portion because I want you to get the feeling for. And with negative painting, you have to constantly be thinking negative, positive, because what you want to show through is the pattern. Okay.
Is that a blue pencil?
Where?
your hand, were you
Oh.
holding the color blue or a regular pencil?
This is just a regular pencil.
Okay.
I just wanted to give myself some guidelines here, because if you looked at the, you see how this is going across on a diagonal? That's kind of an important aspect of this image. And each one of these images is chosen for a reason. This one is, of course, fabric, which is one of the ones I wanted to cover in this session. And then the second thing is a little bit of fall in there. And I mean, if you're going to put in the lettering, you can put in the lettering. I didn't put it in at this point, but and then the leaves and the pattern and the folds in the fabric are something that you're going to be looking for. Okay, so let me just get back to what happens when you do the negative painting. Let's see. Let me get some of the right kind of blue here. I'm gonna exaggerate this a bit because and you know what? I have this on an angle. Okay, so if in fact, let's see, you guys see, okay, there we go. I'm putting in this line here, and this is representing the line where all these little bumps are. I'm going to do this quickly because there's several things we have to cover, but you do it at your own pace, and you do this, you know, and it doesn't have to be, you know, micro exacting. It just has to be, you know, look like what we're trying to achieve. Then you go here, you put in your first triangle. Then you can see that there's some lines around that triangle, and then there's another line. So you're always conscious of what's happening with the blue that's already down on the paper. And when you're going to be putting in your shadows, you always put your shadows in last because they're on top of everything. Then there's a little square here. So before you know it, becomes the pattern that you're looking at. Okay, and then there's a square here. And then there's another piece that comes down from the top like that. Okay, and then we go up again. Okay, does anybody have a question on this, how to approach this? And then when you get to the next line, you're gonna, you know, put in the rule. But before you know it, it's gonna really turn out to be something nice. And oh, one thing I need to show you, when the fabric turns, you know, it's not going to be straight all the time. When the fabric turns, you have to look for that. I'm going to show you what I mean by that. You see over here where it makes a turn, and also look at the density of the color. It's still pretty dark here, but then here and here, because it's closest to the light and it's turning, you're going to lighten that up a little bit. So let me move down the line here a little bit so I can. And you see what happens, of course, you know, in between the diamonds are forming in here and here. And, you know, it's intricate, but what it does is it teaches you, you know, patience, pattern making in painting. Okay, so where it's turning, these are getting a little obscure. They're getting a little angular. And they're also getting lighter. So you want to lighten the paint. And then the next one is going to be doing the same thing. And then if it gets darker on the bottom, just add some dark, put it in there. And then it's going to, your line is going to actually go from here. It's going to go up, and it's going to make a turn where it comes down. And then the little dots or whatever, they're going to be making a turn as well. Okay, so that's negative painting, where you're painting something positive on a background that you already have that's existing. Any questions?
Karen, you do the leaves last?
in this case, I didn't do any, here's the drawing. Okay, you can see here I've put in a little bit of the pattern in the background. Then I've put the 3 leaves. I've drawn the 3. I didn't do anything because I wanted to do that today with you. Okay, but I wanted to show you separately what happens with the pattern. And oh, there's another thing here. If in fact, let me just put this on here for, I want to show you something quickly.
Okay, I'm wasting too much time. Someone can hear you.
Somebody said, okay. Now, if you find on the reference that there's a light spot that you really want to, you know, lighten up and highlight, you can just go back in there with a paper towel before it's dry, and you can give it that feeling. It also makes a texture if the paper towel has a texture, and it's fine to do that. It's good. Okay. All right. So that's negative painting. And you have to concentrate, you have to look at your image, and you have to follow it all the way down the line. Now's a good time for me to show you, because I have this very dry paint here. I'm going to show you what happens with the scrubber, which is right here. Okay, hard bristle, dry paint, and I'm going to wet this. Okay, now I'm going to just, let's see what's a good thing here. What if I wanted to create, and this isn't my good paper, but because you can tell it's digging up a little bit, but very, very, very carefully, you see what that does? It lifts the paint right off in a controlled manner, in a controlled way. So if you wanted to do something that was, you know, like say you wanted to get back up in here, up in where your pattern is, and you wanted to add some lights, you see what the scrubber does? It lifts it, but you have to be gentle. Okay. But it's a great tool when you need it. It really works. And say you have a blob and you wanted to take it off, but you can see where the light areas have now been lifted. They're not bright white, but they're highlight white. And there was a fish I had done once, and I looked at it and I said, you know, there's something not quite right. So I kept at it, and I used a scrubber to actually create the outside line. See, this paper is not the best, but that's okay. You're getting the idea. But you see, there's always hope when something doesn't go your way. So you can get yourself a couple of little scrubbers. They're not expensive, and they're invaluable. Let me give this fish an eye. Okay, so there's a way to lift the pattern. You can even, besides blotting it and wetting it, you can lift it with a paper towel here. You can use a scrubber. So those are techniques on that. Okay, now what if you wanted to actually add the, what does it say? Hello, October. What if you wanted to add those in there? Well, now's the time where you can write right on top with the masking fluid. You can write whatever. I mean, you can hello fall, hello October. But this was a question that John had when he was working on the plate and the background wood grain. Could he actually put the masking fluid over the paint? And the answer to that is, as you can see, absolutely, because then what's going to happen is it comes true. And let's see, Sandy, you added type in yours as well, right?
Yes, I did. I used the fluid on that. Yeah.
Did you, yeah, use the masking, and it's kind of a fun thing. You have to plan ahead. What I do sometimes is I take a picture without any type, and then I go back and I add it to it. You can add also, you can even add in your fabric if you wanted to. you can at one point add the masking fluid and say you wanted those dots to be, kind of a more regular and you wanted them to be the light blue and you were going to put a band over it. Now's a good time to think about using that. That's why when you're painting, and you're looking at a painting, you say, should that be masking fluid? Should it be scrubbed out? Should it be negative painting? These are questions you ask yourself. I mean, there's a lot of talking to oneself in painting, but most times you come up with the answer for sure. Okay, so those are several different things: negative painting, the scrubber, masking fluid, blotting, and negative painting. Okay, any questions before we move on to the leaves? No? Let's see, is there anything in the chat? I should really look at the chat. Nothing in the chat box. Okay, and you know what? A little bit later, I'll let this dry, and then what I'll do is put down some of the darker color over this, and you guys know what happens with that. So these are techniques, and I'd really like you to try the pattern. If you haven't done it in your painting so far, then save a little bit for maybe a bottom edge or something. Whatever suits you. Okay, so let's move on. Okay, the leaves. I have several different techniques with the leaves here. I think leaves, when you look at them, they can look crystally, they can look crumbly. What I've done here is this first one, and I'm going to do this right on my painting. This one here, I put down paint, light, dark, and a few colors, the orange, a little bit of the yellow, and I used saran wrap. I'm sure you guys have heard of this, but this is the thing you ask yourself as a painter: is this the right time for this technique? Is this the right time? And for me, it was. Okay, so that's this technique in the corner here, plastic wrap. And how do you do that? I'm going to show you, because it's a little tricky with timing. That's the only issue, is you just have to be careful with your timing. Timing meaning how wet something is before you put it on and take it off. Okay, the one at the top here, this is a little bit of masking fluid and dropped on color. Dropped on color means you have your drawing of the leaf, you've put water down, plain water, over your whole shape. Then you literally drop in your color and you let it spread. Oh, that was terrible. My big hand there. So you let it spread, and before that, of course, before you put on any of the water or anything, if you wanted these veins to be in the masking fluid, that's the time to do it, before the water. So drawing, masking fluid, water by itself after the masking fluid is dry, of course, and then dropped on color. And that's what gives you this kind of melded, feeling. Okay, and the third version I have here is kind of really almost meant for leaves, because it's scoring. You put down your color, however you want it, light, dark, whichever, and then you get in there with one of these scoring sticks, okay? And you go over your veins right while the paint is wet, okay? And what happens is, some of the paint is going to go in these veins and it's going to settle there and it's going to form the vein. Okay, so those are 3 different ways to approach your leaves. I mean, it wouldn't be a terrible thing to do different techniques of the leaves on one painting, just for the fun of it, or to experience it. Or it would be, I think, more cohesive to do one type of leaf treatment. Okay, so I'm going to do these right now so you can see about timing and what to do. Okay. All right, now this is on an incline, and I'm curious to see if in fact the paint is going to be able to do that. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do, just because I want the masking fluid to dry. And I'm going to do it quickly so that I can show you other things. So you just go, and you always start at your base with your veins, because that's how the leaf actually grows. And it's not mechanical. And if it stops and starts, that's okay. You know, it's not like it has to be. In fact, it's better if it's not so mechanical and rigid. Okay. And what if you wanted to put in your stem here, because you're going to be putting that blue all around it. So you want to leave a nice area for the stem. Now there are some veins that come out from here that are thinner. And I'm going to add those in. And you can look at the, look at the reference. You can do what feels right to yourself. Whatever. And I'm using this, the little bottle because I want it to be nice and thin. There's no reason why you couldn't use an applicator. Okay. Is that visible to everyone? Okay. The next one I'm going to do is the saran. Okay. And this one, I'm just going to, okay, here we go. Just going to mix up some simple color here. I'm hoping it doesn't run all over, but we'll see. Now I'm feeling that maybe the middle one would be good for saran because it's the largest one. And just lay the color on. We all can see this, right? And you want to mix your colors in. You're going to put light, darker in there. I just added a little more of a darker color. Now I'm going to put some of this yellow in here, or golden. Who was saying that the leaves are great today because it's not so sunny? Was that you, Beth?
Yes.
Okay. Maybe I thought I was imagining that for a minute. Now we can even put in some red. I'll tell you, they are starting to really pop, aren't they? The colors. And I would, mix it up. Don't get one color going too much in an area. And then, you can add some more color up here. I'm going to get some more golden on this edge. You don't want the paint to be super, super watery. You want it to be...
Erin, we lost the picture of you painting.
Michelle? Michelle?
Yeah, your phone is the video went off. Maybe there it is. It's
Oh,
back.
there it goes. Sorry, guys. Jeez. Thank you for saying. I don't know why that happens. Who knows? Technology is wonderful, except when it doesn't work. Okay. So what I was saying was you don't need the paint to be, you don't want it to be super watery. Okay. So now we have some paint on there. We like it. Now it's time for the saran. I'm going to take this off for a minute, and I have it here. Okay, and crunch it up a little bit so it has some design to it. Some ins and outs, and then you're going to place it right on top. Press it, press it, press it. Okay. Now this is a little bit of a waiting game because, of course, in watercolor, things have to dry to a certain point. But I want you to see how thick the paint was put on, and the longer that this dries on here, the better the pattern will be underneath. Okay. All right. Now, if I can, I'm I'm gonna try to do this last one on the bottom. So we have one with the masking fluid, we have one with the saran, and now we're gonna do this last one here with scoring. So I'm gonna go back to this. Is it better when it's on the incline? Like that? Better, right? Yeah, okay. Okay, so with scoring, and we'll let this one dry and we'll let that one dry. Okay, so let's see, with the scoring, I'm gonna go more to the, I think the golds this time. This guy isn't behaving. Okay. The reason I'm going a little lighter is because after you score, and this you don't want super watery either. You want it a nice flowy texture. And here I'm just going to introduce a little bit of orange here so everybody's related. All the leaves are related. Okay. All right. This is good enough for, can everyone see? Yeah, you can all see that, right? Okay, now time for the stick. Time for the stick. Okay, right into the wet paint, you're going to be taking your scoring line. This guy doesn't want to behave. Okay. And the same thing when you drew your lines for your masking fluid, it works the same way. And you're digging right into the paper. Don't dig too hard that you rip your paper. And then, you know, you'll see that there are other ones. This we have to work a little bit quickly, not crazy, but quickly, because you want we're going to be dropping wet paint on top of this while the other is still wet. Okay, and it's not the kind of thing where it's super critical. That's the idea, you know, with painting. You should be, you know, you should have fun with it. And I'm going to put some of this really cool, I don't know what color it's a strange color, but it seems to work for me. It's like a brownish goldy color. And you're going to drop it on top. Not everywhere, but, you know, over your lines for sure. And a lot of things happen with this kind of technique when it dries, after it dries. Okay, can we see the scoring lines? And when it dries, and you can actually get in there and, you know, do a little more of your, you know, outside edge when it's done. Okay, so that's scoring. Any questions on that?
Yes.
Yeah, John.
The second paint that you put on, was that more liquidy?
Was it more like slightly, just slightly? It can't, everything at this point can't be real watery, because then it would, you know, slide off.
Right.
It would slide off your area. And you know, the paint is not going to go outside of the wet area. You notice how nothing went outside?
Right.
Everything is inside. Okay, now let me put some paint on the top one here. The one with the masking fluid. I'm going to see how dry that is. It's pretty good. And let me just check what's going on under here. Oh, that's kind of cool. Okay, so you see what happened to that leaf with the saran? Now that's just the beginning for you. You're going to get in there and you're going to paint. This is kind of your background inspiration for, you know, what the leaf can look like. It really can be beautiful. I'll try to work that a little more eventually. Okay, Now the leaf on the top, so I have one that's kind of red and orange. I have one that's kind of gold. I'm going to get down to one that's more on the brown side at the top. And I'll tell you, for a lot of good reasons, because the masking fluid, of course, always shows up better against a darker color. So here, you all know how to do this. And it shouldn't be just all one brown. It should be, what I do sometimes, I like brown and blue together, so I put that in there. I think that really adds another kind of cool dimension to a leaf. And this is where your eye is going to come in, you know, and this, you know, John, I think we were talking a little bit about what makes a watercolor look watery. Well, these are the things. These techniques make it look watery, and they make it look lovely in the end, actually. Okay, so I'll add a little bit. So it's blue and brown if you want to get that little magical thing going on in there. Now picture what's going to happen when I put the blue background in and around these leaves. They're really going to go crazy. It's, you know, another thing that makes a watercolor look like a watercolor is every once in a while you're going to leave a little snippet of white. You see, I'm not filling in those little areas of white. And when the masking fluid comes off, I probably won't leave it white. I will mix a little water on my brush and go over the masking, after the masking fluid's lifted off, go over that. And what it'll do is color the white area of the masking fluid a light tint of whatever's in there. Okay, so we have 3 really unique and very artistic techniques, and you know, ones that you can get away with a little bit of, you know, a little bit of interest there. You know, you can.
Karen, it's Marie Claire. When you're adding these additional colors like the brown and the blue, have you mixed those up ahead of time, or are you just dipping your brush into
Yeah.
those colors?
You know, I am just dipping my brush, and I know that's kind of a no-no, but you know, sometimes there's no-nos are okay. So I really dip it in there as I'm going. And here I'm going to add some to the stems. There's a piece of a stem here. Now I don't want that stem to be too dark. Hi, Marie.
Hi,
How are you? Okay,
good, and you?
I'm good. And then I'm going to add one that goes way down here. And I've changed, you know, I'm just putting in the stem so you can see how it's going. But the drama between the top one, the top with the masking, the middle with the saran, and the last one with the scoring, you have you know, a literal bag of tricks as an artist, as a watercolor artist to you know, get this going. So now I would not really attempt anything on that back area until the leaves were dry. But I would go in and let me get back to this for a second, if I might. And what we're going to do is put some dark over this. Okay. And the same thing up here, if you're doing a row of this pattern.
We
and-
can't see what you're doing. It's off the camera.
Sorry. Hi, Doris.
Hi.
Okay. So there you go. I mean, this can, and it doesn't have to be straight, you know, of course it can bend as the fabric would bend. Okay. And then when that comes up, of course, it's going to be the light blue, not white, because we've already put down this blue in the background. Okay. All righty. Any questions on the leaves, the negative painting so far? No questions? Oh, we have something in the chat. Just a minute. Let's see. When placing masking fluid on top of paint, when removing the fluid, does it remove the paint? No, it does not remove the paint, as long as it's very dry. And what kind of stick are you using? This is a skewer like you would, use for barbecuing. Or, the old ones that when you did manicures, they're called orange sticks. And you can buy them in like, any beauty supply store. They have them in a package, very inexpensive. Or you can go out to the yard and start chopping. No, I'll tell you, there's a lot of, even in the art store, there's like what they call, it's a Chinese stick. It's out of bamboo. And some people actually paint with them, and you could easily use that. So these are readily available to you. Okay, now let's see. Now what I'd like to do, while this is kind of drying, if I have time and it's dry enough, I'll go back and put in some of that pattern in the background. But the contrast, the contrast between these colors and that blue is going to be stunning. Not that the painting is going to be stunning, but that the contrast is going to be stunning. And maybe the painting will be stunning. I don't know. Depends. It's always a surprise. Okay, I'm going to move on to the garden tools, just to give you some ideas of what to do with that and some other technique thoughts. But before I do that, I just want to make sure there's no other questions on where we are. No? Okay. All righty. So let me put this aside.
Can we see your palette?
Sorry?
Can we see your palette?
My palette? Yeah, I'll show you right here. Yeah, you can see. And this, Marie, this was kind of going to where you were. I was painting with the brown, then I went to the blue over here a little bit and put a little blue here. And then when I was down on the cool air, that's why organizing your palette from the warms to the cools it's like it lets you be a little bit mindless when you're reaching for the colors and when you're adding them at very quickly, which as a watercolorist, that's what has to happen. Everything is a little bit timely. Okay, already? I'm sorry this doesn't show the whole thing, but there's only so much room. Alrighty, that's what we have. I would like you to try some of these techniques. I hope that you give it a shot, because that's how you learn things. Whoops. Ooh, hang on. Sorry. Okay. Here's the garden tools. A lot of things can happen with this one. It looks a little, when I first started looking at the image, I selected it because it had metal in it and it had some flowers in it. But there's a lot of things that can happen here that I believe can be a little bit explosive in a way. And it depends on how you're approaching it. That's going to make that happen. Okay. Here is the drawing, my drawing, as you can see. I took a little bit of artistic license here, and I made the flowers go right off of the top, because I wanted to see more of them. So I just kept going with that. And who's to say, it can be that or not. The siding, I left a few horizontal pieces of siding. I didn't know whether I was actually going to do that in pieces or with scoring or how I was going to treat it. But one thing I want you to look at, I wish everybody had the image, is this milk can. I believe it's an old milk can. Okay. And you can see that it's kind of worn and it's got like a texture to it. So what I did with that was I did this. I put down, I just did another real quick sketch here, and I put down some paint, light, dark, whatever I thought the colors in the milk can were. You know what? Let me fold this. That way we can be side by side. Okay, and kind of, I didn't leave it light, but you could leave it light. You could leave it light along the side. So when I put this paint on here, it was thoughtful. It was quick, but it was thoughtful. And then you wait a few minutes. You don't go right at it. You wait a few minutes and then you're going to drop the kosher salt on. I'm going to do a little bit of that on the painting that I have here. I also wanted to point out that up here, I couldn't decide whether it should be, a gray siding or whether I should leave it white with, with the siding. So I was doing like this little, I often do these for myself, is to make a lot of decisions. Here I put masking fluid to show those little skinny branches and some of the flowers. And if I was going to actually do a dark background, I would probably do all the branches and all the flowers with masking fluid, take it off, and then add the purple on top. But here, I'm going to show you the salt today, and I'm going to show you a little bit of the masking fluid today. Okay? All right. And this, I think, is fun because you can have there's a lot of different things that can happen with this image. I mean, just look at the different colors, like there's a terracotta. This is worn off a little bit. This has a little bit of the metallic. This has the metallic where you have a really strong highlight down there, strong highlight on the ends of the prongs. There's a lot of things in here that you can just be very artistic about. You don't have to be literal, okay? So let me get to that, the salt demo so you can see how that works. Okay. And even if you've seen these kind of things before, just bear with me and make these techniques work for you. Make them all work for you. I want you to notice about the drawing. It's not a perfect drawing. It's and I know many of you are taking the drawing class, and that is about more accurate drawing. In this case, a teacher said to me many, many years ago, Karen, you're spending way too much time drawing with the pencil. You need to put the pencil down and you need to start drawing with the brush. So in that case, that's what I started doing. So that's why I give myself just what I need as a roadmap and then go from there. And as a watercolorist, it was very good advice for me, especially because I was overdoing it. Okay, so right out of the beginning, right, because it takes longer for it to dry, I'm going to put some masking fluid on top here where the branches are. Let me get this going. And and it's like, look at your reference, look where there's flowers on there. Look where there's not any. See where there's spaces in between. Look for these empty spaces. The empty spaces are as important as the filled spaces, or negative space, as they say in painting. And if you want to, just go I'm going to go way off the top. I'm going to go, you see, I went right off the top of the page. And you know what? If I decide later that I don't really like that, well, it's only masking fluid. So, wipe it off. But this is good because what it'll do is it'll give you the option of doing that or not doing that. But you want the character of these. I don't know what kind of flowers these are. Does anybody know? No? Okay. But look for things that are really obvious about it, whether something goes curvy. See this little one down here that's hanging out the edge? Well, that to me is kind of what I call an obvious one. So I'm going to take it.
They're lavenders.
Oh, it's lavender. Who said that? Who was that?
That was Ricky.
Oh, Ricky. Hi, Ricky. Okay, this is lavender. It doesn't look like lavender, the typical lavender. I never saw really tall lavender like that. Ricky, I want you to send me your pink plate. I didn't see it finished. Can you send that to me? No? Okay. Okay, but I'm not gonna go really crazy on this because we have a time thing, and I want you just to see, yeah, I want you to see the freedom of the feet and the freedom and the feel of that. And how much that can bring to the painting. And if I decide that the siding is going to be dark, like I did in my sample, then that would really work well. Okay, let's get down to the salt now. Okay, now here, once again, you're going to think about your color. So in this case, the color of that is kind of an unusual green. It's like a mossy green almost. Oh, almost couldn't find my favorite brush. Oh my goodness, that would have been a disaster. Okay, so, and it has light areas and dark areas. Like this is darker, this is medium, this is really the the lightest area. Then
Can't
this
see what
area.
you talk,
Oh,
point.
sorry, I'm sorry. There we go. Okay, darkest area, medium. The shadow is on this side. You can see that, this is the darkest side. So keep that in mind and pay attention to that. The highlight area is right here in the middle. This is a little bit medium tone. Okay, so those are your values. Think about values when you're painting. Dark, medium, lightest. Okay, so I'm going to go to, which I think is an okay color for this. And, like I said, always have a piece of paper handy that you can, test your color on. That's not a bad color. And then I can always add to it the darks. You know what color I love for dark greens is the perline green, Perlene, perline. It's just so, it has a lot of strength and character. Okay. Now this is the same thing. You do not want this to be crazy watery. Okay. You want it to have a creaminess about it. There needs to be water because that's what makes the salt work, the water. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to put the lighter color on first. Let's get a little. That's the other reason you need paper towel and all that handy. Oh, you know what I wanted to mention, which I don't think I mentioned when we talked about paint originally, was there are watercolors that are transparent and there are watercolors that are opaque. And what that means is that, of course, anything that's transparent, you can see through better. And then when it's, now let me add a little bit of the darker color on this side. Now the lightest color, you just want to put down. If that's too dark, wipe it off and get it in there. And then to show that that's really on the dark side, you're just going to add some dark over here. Okay, now going down the side, I want to get this on here so that you can see how the salt works. And it does some nice work for you. I'm trying to go around some of these cups and things that are here. Okay, and then I'm going to put some on the handle. There's two handles here. Here. And the detail of what the actual can looks like, the little ridges that are here on the side, those all come next. Those are all going to come next. Okay, so now you just have to make sure that this is wet enough. If it has dried since you started, then you need to just wet it up a little bit. But you don't want to wet it so much that it doesn't work. Now it looks a little ragged, but that's just because it's the beginning. Okay, now, where's my little salt guy? Here we go. And the reason you don't use any other salt than kosher salt is because of the granules. Okay, everybody's can see. And you can sort of see that, you know, it's absorbing. This is another one of those waiting games where you have to wait and see. You have to wait until it's dry. But it's worth it in the end because there's almost no way of painting that kind of surface to get that feel. It's just, it's not in the cards. You know, well, there is another thing that I have done. It's not quite the same, but it sometimes gives similar results is, let's see, why that's drying so everybody can see how that's working. What I've done with masking fluid is I've taken it where, you know, I put it in an area. Let's see, I'm not able to see that in a second. Okay, I've taken it in an area and just done a little bit of back and forth like that. And then with my hand, you know, I kind of rubbed it. And you might get a surface. You might get a feel on that can that will look similar, but not quite the same. You can really see, you see how the granules, I mean, you know, this is of course my test. When I get in there and do it for real, it would be like more thoughtful, for sure. Okay, so let's see if I can go back up to the, now what would happen next on this painting? If I'm preparing all of this, like the can, the salt, these are all steps in where you're thinking, what is your painting really going to look like? You know, do you want it to be dark? Do you want it to be light? That's why when you do a little, what I call thumbnail test, when I do this, it gives me an idea. Do I like it dark? Do I like it light? How does the lavender read? How can you see it? Is it better off the light or better off the dark? What works the best? And it's not so much what works the best that everybody else is going to have the same. It works the best for what you're thinking. What's going to make your painting what you want? Okay. Now after this, let me just tap that off. You want this to be incredibly dry before you, and all you do when it's really, really dry is you go, of course, to the kitchen sink or someplace where, you know, you don't, a garbage can, and then you rub it off and it'll leave that texture. And then of course, after the texture is off, you're going to go back in there and you're going to really paint your milk can the way you want to see it. Now, my style is very, kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit loose, but it's impressionistic in a way. That's how I feel about it. I call them watercolor impressions because it's my impression, and that's what I would love your paintings to be, your impression. Whether you're using, like Ricky said, oh, that was the other tool that I wanted to talk about was the sponge. Let me see if I have a piece here. Ah, I do. Ricky showed us last week, you know, when we were talking about that crazy fabric that was on the pink plate thing. Let me see if I can put this on here. I tried a little bit of the sponge. I put, you know, some of it for the lavender because I thought that was kind of a neat suggestion. And I said, well, hey, maybe we should try it. So the way to do it is just mix up your paint, not too watery, not too, you know, not too thick. And then you have a little piece of, this is a natural sponge. You can buy these in the art store. You can buy them in what do you call those? Where aquarium stores where they have fish. And what I do is I rip them up and I find an edge that I think is kind of cool. You know, kind of has a nice edged, nice texture to it. And then I dip it in the paint, and I'm going to dip it right. I'm going to do it right on here. And you don't want to overdo it. It's a technique that you can just it can take over, and it can look too mechanical. So you can use a combination of that, and then you can take like a big watercolor brush, and you can drop water, if it will work for me. You can drop water on top, and it will soften it, and it'll look more natural. And the paint will kind of run together, but it'll give a really nice technique. So it's a combination of those two things. Let me see. So see how it's like running, and it's like looking kind of cool now. And if there's too much water somewhere, just dry off your brush and pick up the water like a vacuum. Okay. I mean, even this, as rough as it is, there's something nice about it. There's something nice, and there's something very painterly, and I think interesting. Now this is, let me try something with that. I'm going to put some green on top of that. Well, everything's too wet right now, but I think you get the impression of what can happen to the lavender. Now it's going to run down the page. Okay, let's see. Got to go. Okay, Sue. What kind of stick are you using? Alrighty. Now, that's pretty much all I have for today. I would love for you to attack these two. And it's good to be working on two at once, just because you have to go back and forth, and you have to mix paints, and you have to think about things, and you have to let things dry and let things cure. And when you get to one, you have to put that down, go back to your the leaf one. So by working on the two of them together, it makes for a very interesting week. Okay. Are there any questions about what we've done so far today?
Karen,
Yes.
the kosher salt, is there any special type of kosher salt or grain size or anything?
No, I would get not the fine. If there was one that you didn't get, just get regular kosher salt, regular grind, but not fine grind.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's that. And you'll be surprised to add that to your oh, you know what? I want to show you before we leave here, because this is dry. Oh, okay. So now that white there is a little too stark. So you know how I was saying before, wet your brush, just wet your brush with water, and now go over it. And what it'll do is it'll pick up some of the color underneath. And I think you'll be happy with what you see. You see the difference? I'll leave some. I'll leave some to show so you can see. It's a little glary. Okay, there we go. You can see where some of it has taken on the color of the actual leaf. You can also, if that's not quiet enough for you, you can also mix up a tint, and you can lay a tint back over top. So we have three ways to look at this. You don't want to disturb the paint underneath too much, but here it's just water. Here it's adding a tint, and there it's white. Okay, now what if on your scoring leaf, you wanted to see a little more definition? You want to add some more to that? Well, that's possible. So let's see what we can do here. We can add more so that, you know, and concentrate on the vein areas. I just took a little brown and mixed it in there and kind of let it drop in there. And this one where we put down water over the complete leaf and dropped color on, and then we let it dry a little bit, and then we put the saran on top. These are three beautiful ways to approach leaves. Okay, let's see.
Could we see Hello October rubbed off?
You know, I didn't put that on, but I might do that. Oh, the other one. Yes, yes, we can see that. Definitely. Hang on. We can see that. Here it is. I just need a bigger desk. Okay, here's Hello October. Now it's not quite dry enough, but I'm going to do it anyway. It's a little scary looking, actually. It got a little like Halloween-y. That's because it wasn't dry enough. And then up here, where you have the pattern, you have to know when these different techniques are the right thing for you. So negative painting, masking fluid, kosher salt, painting wet into wet, painting with using kosher salt, dropping paint in over top. There's a lot of things that you can do as a watercolorist. I mean, there's something really nice about this. I mean, if I wanted to, I'd probably just say, oh, maybe I'll just cut this off and let that finish that. I didn't finish that painting. If I was going to work more on this, I'd probably get a fine brush. Let's see, I'll just give you a quick idea of what I'm thinking. What do I do when I take the salt off, and what happens next for me? What happens next? Good question. And you know, you talk to yourself as a painter a lot because you're always asking, should I do this? Should I do that? What happens if this happens? I might just go in here. Let's see. You can't really see. Okay. Go in here and, you know, give that rim some shape, and then go down here, and I'm going to look at the real shape of that handle, and I'm going to go back in, and I'm going to put some of the darks in while I'm thinking about it. Then I'm going to go down to here. I'm just going to give myself, and there's a shadow that runs underneath this area here, and then down the edge. There's one that runs down this edge. But you can see it's, you know, it's coming along. It just takes the time. And I'm not one for really what they call outlining, but what I do is I will blend this stuff. Now there's a couple of ridges that go across this milk can, but they always have a dark line under them because that's where it's a cast shadow underneath. Okay, but that's how you build it. And oh, what would happen on top if it was a little drier? There's going to be, when you look at that lavender, there's going to be some. Right now, there's no real darks in there, so I would probably look at the reference, and I go put those little darks in there. And you know what? If it's wet, it's kind of cool that it just, you know, runs into the other areas. And what I did on the bottom here, I had some where they dropped off. Some of the pieces dropped off. I just added that in there because I thought repeating the color like that is kind of nice. And since there's no water down here, you just drop water in. Okay. Are we good?
We're good.
We're good.
Okay, all right. I'm very excited to see what you're going to be doing. Please show me during the week if you have something to share. And I hope you learned a lot today. There was a lot on the table. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate, because I know I'm going through it and it's kind of, you know, it may be quick within an hour's time. So we can always, you know, repeat that. And you can go to the videotape, right? Like they say in the sporting world, go to the videotape. Okay. Are there any other questions? Thank you. That's nice. When is the salt removed? When everything is super dry. Super dry.
Karen,
Yes.
Lita, it's a little, but it's off topic, but what I wonder is, do you sketch right on your paper, or, you know, or do you sketch and transfer? You know, what's your method?
I draw right on here, right on the paper. I give myself a guide. I don't know whether I showed you. Let's see here, you know, just to see where the half is and where the half is that way. I fold the paper that way. And then I make that same kind of line on my paper, just to give me a good proportion as to, and then I might change it. You know, I might move everything to the right or the left, but I draw right on there, and very lightly. I try to do most of my thinking when I'm painting, because years ago I used to overdraw. And when you're a painter, you just need a framework. You just need guidelines. Okay. And you know what? It takes practice. I'm painting a long time. So when I draw, you know, it's a little quicker for me. But all right.
Karen,
Okay,
Yes?
thank you.
Karen, it's Sue Morocco.
Yes.
I overdrew. I was enjoying so much drawing this, I overdrew. So then I took some tracing paper
Yeah.
and just traced the main lines and put graphite down on my other piece of watercolor paper and just made a guide,
A transfer, right?
like a transfer with graphite paper, because I think I'm going to take this pencil drawing and work on it some more, maybe even add some colored pencils. It's
Oh,
gonna be
nice.
different
Great.
media, but I went way too far.
Well, you know what? That's something you just learn along the way. And if I'm painting because this is a painting class, but there are many times I pick up the pencils, and when I'm out on the road, if I go to a park or something, I bring watercolor pencils with me. And if I only have time to do that, that's what I do. Then I was at Brookdale Park about a week ago, and I was in the playground, and I did a lot of sketching of their different kinds of things, you know, merry-go-round, the climbing thing. I thought I wanted to do a series there. So I did, you know, sketches that would then go beyond. So it's whatever you need to do for yourself.
Cool. So the watercolor pencils versus the regular colored pencils. So you could go back with the watercolor and make some areas wet then.
With watercolor pencil?
Uh-huh.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great look. That's a great look. Let's
Okay.
ask John about that.
Thanks,
Right.
Karen. Great class.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
okay. My pleasure. See you next week. Please try to do something and share with me if you can.
Aaron,
Yes.
will we be working on this again, this same image again next week, or a new one?
Well, we're going to be working on this, but I will be sending a new image out to consider. But since we have two here going, I want to see how far everybody gets.
Okay,
But I'm going to be sending one new image probably on Wednesday, just to keep us going, keep us moving.
okay.
All righty. Anybody else?
I just want to say thank you.
Yes,
Oh,
thank you.
Yes,
my
thank you very much.
pleasure. My pleasure. It's a joy for me.
Thank you.
so much.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Have a good weekend.